I want to respond to a video by Terry Strange entitled The Swedish Model. In the video, Terry Strange answers some questions about her position on prostitution posed by another YouTube video maker by the name of Dead Girls Sing the Blues. Before I respond to Terry Strange's video, I want to say that I have benefited greatly from her videos. I have learned a lot from her, not only from her own thoughts, but also from her reports of the research she has done regarding the sex industry. I've also learned a great deal from another YouTube video maker by the name of Auntie Quillins, I think is how you pronounce her name, whose themes and positions are similar to Terry Strange's. I will post in the underbar links to their channels. Check out their videos and consider subscribing to them. I do. Now to Terry Strange's video. Terry Strange presents what she calls the Swedish Nordic model for dealing with prostitution. According to Terry Strange, this model decriminalizes prostitution but criminalizes procuring sex for payment. In short, prostitutes face no criminal or civil penalties for the practice of their profession, but their customers do. According to Terry Strange, the Swedish Nordic model is the fairest model, given that we live in and I'm quoting her, a capitalist patriarchy, end of quote, although she doesn't think this model is ideal. According to Terry Strange, according to Terry Strange, this model was intended to help combat human trafficking, help combat violence against women, stop prostitution, or at least significantly curb its practice, recognize that prostitution is inherently harmful. Now, this last statement is interesting, that prostitution is inherently harmful, and perhaps Terry Strange can elaborate on it further. To say that prostitution is inherently harmful is to say that the act of prostitution per se is harmful. The act, qua act, is harmful. That would mean that the act of prostitution would remain harmful if we somehow could disassociate it from evils like human trafficking, poverty, danger, and so on. Now, it's not obvious to me how prostitution per se is inherently harmful, but it is obvious that those who wish to criminalize some aspects of prostitution would want to make the so-called inherent harmfulness of prostitution manifest. That would go a long way to making the case that criminalizing prostitution in some respect is a social good because it addresses an inherent evil. It would also meet the test I posed in my video, Prostitution and Reluctance, that the practice of prostitution in a decriminalized and largely destigmatized state of affairs would have to be uniquely odious, depersonalizing, dangerous, and exploitive in ways that all other legal and destigmatized professions are not, in order to make a strong case for the criminalization of prostitution. According to Terry Strange, the root cause of prostitution is alienation. The customers of prostitution, she says, are very alienated from other human beings and from their sexuality, as evidenced by their commodification of other human beings. Now, that also is a fascinating idea, since it seems to suggest that the customers of prostitutes in some respect make themselves victims by commodifying others. Of course, if that is true, it could conceivably call into question the wisdom of the Swedish Nordic model. After all, why would it be wise to punish victims, in this case, the customer victims? According to Terry Strange, the second root cause of prostitution is poverty. She says that many prostitutes don't want to be commodified, but will allow themselves to be commodified because they need money. Here, Terry Strange and I have complete agreement. I think this issue is so paramount that, as I said in my video, Prostitution and Reluctance, prostitution as a social issue would largely dissolve if wealth inequity were adequately addressed in societies. According to Terry Strange, there are people who have options other than prostitution, yet they choose prostitution as their work. Let's call them prostitutes by choice. But Terry Strange feels that as a feminist and radical, it is not her job to push the rights for these women over the rights of those who are being trafficked. She says you cannot separate the industries, they go hand in hand. Now, it's not obvious to me why human trafficking goes hand in hand with prostitution by choice, since human trafficking is precisely about denying choice to the prostitute. It's about enslavement. And that is different from prostitution by choice. Perhaps Terry Strange can elaborate on this a bit further. So if this means that prostitution by choice must earn a living some other way than by prostitution, then so be it, says Terry Strange. That's fine by her. According to Terry Strange, as a feminist, she does not have time for the, and I'm quoting, libertarian, it's my body game when you have whole masses of women and children being used and discarded. End of quote. Now, I must confess, I find it bewildering when feminists suggest that the "it's my body" motif is not important to them. If patriarchy has done anything, it has robbed women of the ownership of their own bodies. Laws against abortion are a prime example. For the same reason, I find it incongruous when feminists basically want to criminalize prostitution because they are then basically embracing the patriarchal notion that society can claim ownership over a woman's body and tell her what she can and cannot do with it. Now, since Terry Strange embraces the Swedish Nordic model, perhaps this criticism doesn't apply to her, since prostitutes are not criminalized under this model, just their customers. But, of course, then the customers' bodies are effectively owned by society, a continuation of the patriarchal practice, even if it would end up being directed mostly at men. I'm not sure how anyone is bettered by finding, even unwittingly, novel ways to instantiate patriarchy. That's another reason why I think that the best way to deal with prostitution is to deal with what makes its practice an economic necessity and not to make it an issue about permissibility. Nothing would please the patriarchs more than by making it permissible for society to tell persons what they can do with their bodies, men or women. Thank you for your attention.